Welcome into the Tour Coach, everybody. It's PGA Championship week, and I'm your host, Tony Ruggiero, as I am each and every week. If you're new to this, these are stories, interviews, roundtable discussions. Some turn out to be pretty funny because we're always having a good time, but it's people that I find insightful, knowledgeable, the people that I trust, the people that I find fascinating from traveling the world of golf, coaching and teaching, whether it's my home studio here in Mobile, Alabama, or my home for instruction at Old Palm Golf Club down in Palm Beach Gardens, or whether it's out at the PGA Championship this week with Andy Ogletree, or it's on the PGA Tour, the Korn Ferry Tour, the Live Tour, Epson or LPGA, wherever it is we travel. These are the stories, the interviews, and the people that I think can help all of you play the game better, or maybe coach the game better, teach the game better, as we have so many folks from our industry that listen to the Tour Coach. And PGA Championship week, folks, means it's your opportunity to go onto our YouTube page, DewSweeper TV, watch some of the videos. We've got new videos, new content going up every day, and I appreciate all of the interest in it as the numbers keep soaring, especially with the production and the release of a new Pro Work episode. For a chance to win a new set of Srixon irons or a Vineyard Vines Prize Pack or a Bushnell Mini Wingman, all you have to do is go onto our YouTube page, check it out, and comment hashtag Pro Work or hashtag DewSweeper TV or hashtag Tour Coach, and those will get you entered, and we're going to do the drawing Monday after the PGA. So I hope you enjoy the content we're bringing to you this week. We've got some great stuff. We've got great people coming on. It's going to be a fun and exciting week up at Valhalla. Before we go, though, I'm a changed man. That's all I got to say. Is everybody listens to this knows, obviously, big red wine guy. Been a huge rum guy for a long time. I always swore off tequila. I had a bad incident with tequila back in college, hanging out with my buddies Big Al and Rich. What can I tell you? I'm a changed man. I had the opportunity this week, was out at the U.S. Girls 4-Ball in San Antonio, hanging out with some folks, and tasted these new drinks called Epic Western. They're 100% blue agave tequila. My personal favorite is the Chisparita, but the ranch water was amazing. La Paloma and Brushfire. They've got 4 different drinks. This is like going to the highest end tequila bar you can find, getting the highest end cocktail, refreshing, putting it in a can. I can't think of a better thing to drink or just kind of sip while you're playing golf. My first thought was being on a boat in the Keys, but folks, if you're in Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, or Florida, check out Epic Western. It is amazing. New partner here on the DewSweepers. We're looking forward to doing some content with them. But if you want the coolest drink, I think, to drink while you're out riding around in the cart practicing, maybe I should try it while I'm coaching. Check out Epic Western, and that's epicwestern.com. But just go find them wherever they sell it. You won't be disappointed. Take a sip, drive around in a golf cart, hit a few balls. Guarantee it's going to make the experience better. You're listening to the Tour Coach, and it's PGA Championship week. We got some great stuff coming for you. All right, so joining me here on the Tour Coach, one of the great teachers in the game. He's always got a lot to say. From just down the road from me right now, down I-10 in New Orleans, Louisiana, fellow New Orleans Saints fan, Golf Digest Top 50, Golf Magazine Top 100, Brian Manzella. What's up, Brian?
Hey, Tony.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I'm still worried about the Saints now. You know.
Oh, I mean, I'm more worried about the Saints than I am golf instruction right now.
I'm arguing with people every night about the Pelicans and who we ought to trade and who we ought to not trade, but it's a good distraction. Sports. I married a gal that Lisa went to LSU. She was in the band for 3 years, and she is more of a sports junkie than me. So it's all you young guys out there that haven't got hitched yet. It's a good idea if you're a sports fan to marry a sports fan, because otherwise you're going to be very disappointed when that game's on. And you can't watch it, and I can watch it. So. Always great to be on the pod with you.
No, absolutely. And time gets away from me sometimes. And then I look up, I was driving the other day down to Palm Beach, and I was like, man, sometimes it's like I feel like I had you on and then I look and it's like, man, it's been 3-4 months, or something like that. We've always had you've been such a good supporter over the years through all the radio stuff and everything. And we always have great conversations. You're one of the best guests I ever have. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to talk a little bit about look, I'm no different than anybody else. Look, where everybody's got to put stuff out and content and different things out to be relevant now, all that. So there's so much stuff out there. But let's talk about a little bit about the fads. You're very, very good at staying up to date about what people are teaching and what's going on out there. Let's talk a little bit about what you see is going on out there in the world of teaching. And then kind of, you brought up something off the air about things that, people see that they think won't work that actually do. And let's just have a nice little chat about it.
Yeah. When you teach regular folks and the good players too, the tour players, there is, the trends are very easy to spot if you weren't online ever. If you were just a cat and you similar, to you and me, we've been doing this forever, and we work with some really, really, really good players, and some, guys just starting out, gals just starting out, little ones too, right?
Right.
But the trends are easy to see in lessons because you see stuff over and over and over again, and you start thinking, you go like 10 years ago, I didn't see this, right? So
yeah.
that's a trend, right? Just like you see guys wear pants that have basically real small at the bottom. And that's why when Jason Day comes out in pants that were exactly the pants I was wearing when I worked at Lakewood in 1986, they look clownish, but I wore pants like that.
I thought the same thing when he wore those pants. I was like, some of my early stuff when I started working for Hank, for HJ, man, like they were pretty similar to that stuff,
Yeah. So Jay Delsing was talking about trends. We go clothes first. Jay Delsing was the first guy on tour coming out of the big collar polyester Sansa era, right? Flare pants that wore polo shirts and cotton pants. So he had the banded sleeves. He had the little polo. It was actually probably polo, but I mean everybody calls it a polo.
Right.
The little lay down collar and pants with pleats that were kind of baggy, and they got a little smaller at the bottom, but they weren't like these sweatpants, whatever you call them that I'm wearing now, like Lululemon. So when I would wear, I was a little assistant in teaching. It was like one of those things where I couldn't buy a whole bunch of clothes, so I had to buy like one set of clothes.
Yep.
Stuff that I could wear, to dinner that I could also teach in, and they used to make fun of me. But I said, well, look at Jay Delsing when he comes plays in this tournament next week. He ain't gonna be wearing that stuff, and he weren't. And then couples, with
huge
Ashworth, right? So if you look at any of the couples from '94, the famous, where the ball gets stuck on the 12, the slope on 12 at Augusta, those pants don't look that different than the pants that Jason Day was wearing. So the only reason to bring that up in this conversation is that's how golf swing stuff is too, folks. You don't realize unless you're old like me and Tony here that there are things that go in and out of style for all sorts of reasons. And the first one I'd like to talk about is the club going back somewhat in. So let's just say at first parallel. So I got a pretty decent book collection. It's complete Little League compared to Michael Jacobs' book collection. Partially because he didn't have a Katrina in the middle. That took the book collection bye-bye. So, but I bought, I bought a lot of books. And I like old books, and I like old books with pictures. I'm looking at Alex Morrison, Better Golf Without Practice. Highly recommend that if anybody's out there, like to go on eBay and buy an old book, and maybe you come up, you see something. It's a good book, very good instruction book. And there's a bunch of pictures in that book of people who you've heard of, and then some people you haven't heard of, but they're in the book. They're probably worthy of being in a book at that point.
Right.
Well, the thing is, there's things that went that have gone in, that have been in style and out of style, and a good example, a good start is the takeaway, right? So, first parallel, okay. Everybody knows that should be parallel to the top, or else, right? Then you're not a real player. You're whipping it inside. Something wrong with you. Except, I bet you, just looking at my little book collection right here, sitting here in the studio in the sky talking to you, that I probably have 100 people who aren't with us anymore that are in these books that people who are listening to this have heard of. And I would say parallel to the target line at first parallel or P2, whatever you want to call it, 10%. So 90% of famous golfers who are in these historical books, who are, playing the golf course in the sky right now, if they live a good life. It ain't my job to judge. But you know what I'm saying? They didn't do it.
Right.
So how could it be you have to do it, Mr. 5 handicapper wants to get the scratch? No, you don't. And the simple fact of the matter is that you're swinging a club head. When that thing hits the ball, the vibration only goes up about 4 inches up that shaft. So as far as the ball knows, that's the only thing that hit it. 4 inches of shaft, a ferrule or a little adapter, on the woods, right? And the head, and that's it. That's what you're swinging. And all these arbitrary positions are really not as important as the arc the club head makes going back, because you have to speed it up to make a backswing, and you have to slow it down to stop the backswing, and then you have to redirect it, probably with the same juice that you slowed it down with. So pay more attention, folks that are listening to this. If you got a line drawing little app on your track, just the club head. Some of these new AI apps will do that for you.
Crazy, yeah.
XView, I've been in their beta program. I think you can buy the program now. They'll do a club head trace, and you'll start seeing this look at the top of the swing in transition. I call it the sickle. Well, most people can't turn enough and get their arms in the position that Rory can, that he can take it really straight back, I think 2 straight, to be honest with you. And then wind up at the top, what everybody would call across the line, but I would call just standard, like pointing at the target, and from straight back. He can do it from straight back. But Mr. Faversham, or Mr. Faversham's son, Pete, who's a CPA, who's 38 and has 1.3 kids, that guy might need to take the club back where the shaft is like pointing 20 degrees, 30 degrees maybe, to the right of target at first parallel. And if you said that on the internet, you'd create a junk.
Oh, yeah.
That could be junk. These guys in the book, they were playing with friggin' rubber band balls and wooden drivers, and they, believe me, it beat Mr. Faversham and his CPA son Pete's best ball like it's nothing.
Why do you
old equipment.
Why do you? 2 questions. Why do you think people got away from that? I've got a girl that I've posted her on Instagram before. Plays at Mississippi State, freshman, really good, played great for them in SECs, and they won. And she gets it in and shut. And I've not changed that, right? And she smashes the hell out of it. I'm curious why do you think people get okay?
Hank Haney's the first person that made it pop. I'm not blaming Hank. I'm just saying
and
he
why
was the first person that popularized what straighter back.
Okay, and what would be the benefit? A lot of people listening to you and I have been for years, and they're like you said, they're not a tour player, right? They're golfers trying to get to scratch, trying to break. What would be the advantage of doing it?
It makes it look pretty, right? It makes it look neat and tidy. But at the end of the day, the technical of it is this. And this is the way I like to look at golf swing stuff. And I encourage the listeners to do this. Every year, and I will do this hopefully for plenty more years, so it's up to the man upstairs, I go to the PGA show. I have not missed one. Or they missed one because of COVID. I went to the next one. That was pretty sad, but I went anyway. Since 1985. And demo day probably started in the late 90s, right? Mm-hmm. And it's at Orange County National Driving Range, which folks have never been there. It's the damnest thing you ever saw. It's a round driving range. It's 1 mile around on a cart path.
Yeah.
And, okay, so now everybody who's at the driving range right now, we'll go back in the time machine to this year, and they're all in the range, and I got the big microphone in my hand. I said, okay, you have to listen to me. Everybody, we have a little blinking light to the right of you. Look to the right of you. Hey, look at that, blinking light. If the light's blinking, your club is not parallel to the target or outside the target, parallel to the target at first parallel P2. Right? Okay. So all you other people, we got something for you in a second. Now you people, that the light's blinking, Watch this jumbotron. You see this? This is where you are, sort of, kind of. This is where straight back is. Okay, now you got 200 people that the light went off. We're going to let you hit 5 balls. If you can get the club to go straight back-ish, right, like we're showing you right here, you get a dozen of any ball you want on the market. Well, everybody's trying. What the hell? They're $60 a dozen.
Yeah.
So I'd say of the 200 people, 5 balls, you get 100 solid that do it without any instruction. Right? They'll just manipulate it and do it. So what's going to happen to that ball? Oh, Brian, that's not real teaching. That's bullshit. You know, it's as random as you're going to get. You got 200 guys. There's going to be a couple tour players, be a couple schluff teachers like us. There's going to be some guys that never played golf before. They went with their friend to this demo day to see if they like golf. And so they took it back straighter than they did. What happened to the shots? Okay, first thing is overall, the shots go further right. Mm-hmm. Couple will go further left. Yeah, maybe somebody took it in, swung out, and pushed it to the right. But in general, it's sort of a fade element. The more outside you take it is a fade element. Why is it what does that have to do with fading? Because with the club head more out in front of you at that place in the swing, unless you rotate your arms more than you did before, probably, the club will wind up on the wrong side of your coconut at the top, like Matt Wolf or Furyk used to do, or Jimmy Braun, the guy that they always bring up, and Miller Barber, right? You'll have that look. But pretty much everybody's and you're going to rotate your forearm and your club by doing that. And so the club is going to be a little bit more open overall at the top. The whole system is going to be a little bit more open, and you probably fade it more. So most good players or hookers at some point, they pass through hooker, right? And they take it a little straighter back. If they were yanking it inside, they probably hit a little bit less of a hook. That probably ruined half of them right there, randomly. But everybody teaches that. I say everybody. 98% of all the teachers in the world would take that girl from Mississippi State and go, oh, Tony doesn't know what he's doing. He's supposed to be straight back right here. Look at him. Let me draw a line on the screen. So that's what it does. It changes the arc of the club head and forces you to rotate the things that open the club more on the backswing to get the club where it would have been, to get to the same place it was when you took it inside 20 degrees.
Okay.
And we're not even talking about spin in the face right there. That's another thing. But that by itself, you could fix. Now, if you did the same thing, you said, okay, what about you other folks? I said I had something for y'all. You know, there's 240 people there that took the club back straight or outside. Now you hit. We got 100 of y'all. You got the best candidate. You take it back so straight, Hank Haney would blush. He'd kiss you on the mouth. Okay, so now you 100 people for the dozen balls have to take it back this far in. You go, who is this guy? Yeah, Sam Snead. So it's not that bad, right? Pretty decent player. Might have heard of him. You got to get it in here 25, 30 degrees. If you do it in 5 balls, you get dozen Pro V1 left dashes if you want. Okay, here you go. Do it. Ooh, some of those people are going to go, wait a minute, what was that? In other words, I don't know how many people you would hit better shots with the straight back out of 100, maybe 10 or 15, but you might get 30 or 40 guys out of and gals out of the 100 taking it more in that hit it better. And it's less of an issue now, right? The TrackMan era is 15 years old, and you know Victor Hovland was one of the best players in the world, Player of the Year last year, and he does it right now. I don't know if he's been taught out of it. Because he's certainly gone to 10 teachers since then.
Yeah, but for sure.
So that's one right there. Just all by itself, the inside takeaway will help more people who don't do it than the straight back takeaway will help people who don't do it. And I would bet, I don't know, $100,000 if we get at least 300 or 400 people in the test. And we did a university study on it. So that's just like people probably thinking, what is this guy talking about? But I'm telling you, now you look at the historic books, it just wasn't a thing. Nicklaus kind of did it, fading the ball.
Yeah.
And his whole rest of his backswing is a draw backswing. So people who have draw backswings and they don't try to draw it, Scotty Scheffler comes to mind, will take it back straighter. McIlroy, that he's trying to draw it less, right? If he'd let him alone, he'd probably swing 8 degrees inside out. They all take the club back more in, but then the rest of their swing looks like a guy who took it in.
Yeah.
Right? So there's at least 10 things like that. Leaning slightly away from the target would be up there now. That was universally taught 25 years ago, universally despised now. That can't be. It's better for some people. David Toms, Brent Snedeker, Curtis Strange. How can it be bad? Right? Terry Middlecoff. Well, it can't. Right-leaning torsos at the top have gone away. You got to give Andy Plummer full credit for that, and Golf Tech.
Well, yeah,
right?
I don't have a problem. I mean, like, I mean, hell, you've watched enough of my stuff, but, man, I like people getting, I think it's good, especially for some recreational golfers that, I mean, to get so tilted the other way and all that, like getting them to just move over that way is a good thing.
My last lesson was with a young cat, got all the physical ability in the world, worked in the computer industry, thinking about getting in golf. I'd probably tell him not to. But he works at a golf course now, and no names. And that was his whole lesson. I mean, he's taken 2 lessons from me already. But, I mean, the point is, like, his whole lesson was he leaned a little left. Nobody, if you put his best backswing up with a drop, the befores, right? So the last time he went out and videoed himself. You put it on the internet, I don't know if anybody, you'd have a thread with 100 replies. I don't know if anybody would say his hips went too far to the right, his upper body's too far to the left, but 100% it did for him. I got him looking pretty much like, Hogan, who did not lean left at the top, much as everybody who likes leaning left thinks he did not. And he hit the ball so much better. It was like the guy was.
Yeah.
He'd have kissed me if I'd have been prettier, right? So it's one of those that's another thing. That's taboo. You can't do that. And then the best taboo is the club being on the cross the line side of the hands. I mean, I teach that sort of as a rule. I mean, if you can beat me with the club on the other side of the hands at the top, fine. And you can get the club on the laid off side and still have the club's down track, that last little part of backswing. It would have got on the cross the line side if your backswing was long. Now, you can't look at John Rahm and say, well, that's where the club is. He's laid off at the top. Yeah, but okay, if he did that backswing and the club kept going, where would it go? So that's what you have to slow down and change direction. But like you would think it's the worst possible thing because I don't see anybody on the internet posing people with the club between their arms. I mean, a couple. Travis Fulton's one of them. I got to give him credit. I mean, it's like that's just a normal position. It's like looks like everybody in the book. You have a tough time finding people who everybody would agree, 1% laid off in any of these historical books. Like the Hall of Fame probably has less than 10% club head on the laid off side of the hands versus club head on the cross side of the hands. 90% on the cross side, 10% on the non-cross side. And then, but it's gone away. It's like nobody thinks you could. If you do that, it's going to flop underneath you. Some people need it to flop underneath. It would be good for some people.
Why do you think people got away from that?
That part,
yeah,
I think
cross
that's right.
line laid off.
If you take the club, first of all, video programs, right? Like I now have, I don't have all of them hooked up. I got 4 of them hooked up. I now have 6. I'm trying to figure out the other 2 angles. Video cameras that can play back the swing in my studio every time people make a JC video. I think they make the best of that unit, that software. And I've got, as I look across my studio right now, face on, down the line, overhead, and booty view, right? Which would be, face on for a left.
Yeah.
And I watch them on every swing. They play back, whether I like it or not, on every swing. And if you take it back straight, like we were talking about a second ago, with first parallel is more on the toe line or something like that, then it will generally, you'll have to rotate the arms a lot. Everybody thinks the right elbow should be tucked. That would be on the list too. The forearm pointing straight down, it's garbage. Not for everybody, but for most people, garbage. And so if you do all of that, you draw a couple lines on your line drawing program, then it looks like everything stays more on a 2D plane, which is just in 2D anyway, which people need to understand. The golf club is not swinging on a plane. I got people, well, I'll look at this last swing this guy made right now. His swing plane in TrackMan, that's just the club head. Okay? You may have heard of something out there called vertical swing plane. There is no such thing in TrackMan for 10 years called vertical swing plane. But there's one little guy who wears a visor and teaches golf. He likes to use those terms. And people go like rent time on a TrackMan and go, where's the vertical swing plane number? It doesn't exist, bro. He likes to say it because it makes him sound smart. But the number is I got you there, didn't I? The number is swing plane, right? So swing plane on this kid's last swing was 44.2. The swing radius, the average, because it's changing at all times, but the average swing radius from hip high to hip high is 42.5, and the swing direction was pretty straight. So in other words, if you do that, if you go get a hula hoop and cut it and measure it 42.5 and 44 degree angle, and then you try to match the club head motion on that little hula hoop to what the kid actually did. He's a kid. He's 30 years old, but I mean, to me, he's a kid. It wouldn't match because the swing is a little bit more, it doesn't flatten out to a plane in real world that much. It get on something like a plane from down the line. But again, you're looking at it from 2D.
Right.
It curves more than that. And it has more of a belly instead of a flat belly. And so people are really, they're making decisions on their golf games and their students' golf games based on 2D, which is, it should go away at some point, right? Because at some point they'll get this app-based 3D, I think with a couple of cameras, probably pretty close. But when you look at the overhead, you look at the down the line, you realize that you're basically spitting in the wind on the down the line.
Right.
And you see things that you think are happening, like the laydown move, right? The famous laydown move. Mostly backswing. So, like, I have pros work, you do too, right? Teaching pros will come take lessons for a couple of reasons. One, they like golf, but they want to hit it better, and they want to learn, right? We were talking about me and Jacobs worked with Jason Duffner and Steve Elkington. Well, Jason Duffner gives he also teaches some tour players, and Steve works with lots of people. So they weren't just learning for their own games. They're
trying to apply it, yeah. They're
trying to learn it so that they can tell their friends or their clients, right? And so if you did this with any of the things we're talking about, more or less, the lay down moves that you think you can do the lay down move. Let's just say they don't do it. Oh yeah, I could do it. Okay, go ahead. Right? There it is. Now, when you look overhead, you realize, because you could see like where the backswing ends and where the downswing starts of the club. Most of what everybody thinks is a lay down move is still on the backswing. The club's really still going, but from 2D down the line, you can't see that. It looks like they're doing it on the downswing. So you got all these poor people going out to these driving ranges, and they got their little phones on their little, miniature tripods, and they're trying like hell to lay the club down on the downswing. And most of the people that lay the club down, some 2D lay that club down, or doing it on the backswing. So a lot of this stuff, the long answer to your question is because it looks neat and tidy, and it matches a couple of lines on 2D video. And everybody thinks that the neater and the cleaner it is, the better. But this kid that won the tournament yesterday ain't neat and clean. He picked the club up outside and then takes his hands in enough where he crosses. Most people that would take it outside would lay it off. He crosses the line a bunch, and he hit the crud out of the ball. He hit it great. And he's going to win more than that tournament, I bet. Because he hits it far and he hits it pretty straight. And that club ain't going up any damn line on the backswing. So most of this stuff we're gonna look at this 20 years from now. Hopefully, you and I, the old guys, the old guys now, like Butch and those guys. Not that they're old, but they're older than us, and still be around and still be in the conversation. We can say, hey, I remember talking about this on Tony's old podcast. At some point, when everybody knows more than they ought to know more than they do now. Some of this stuff that's popular for no particular reason, or popular for just bad measurement. Mm-hmm. Basically, it's not any good. It's not good for golf because there's a certain percentage of the tour would probably play better if they took the club back more inside. There's a big percentage of the tour that would play better if they laid the club off at the top less. There's a bigger percentage of the tour who try to lay the club down who'd be better off not doing it. Mm-hmm. So the tour is even getting affected by all this crap.
For sure, and I think that just for me. And this isn't being critical of anybody teaching the shallow and it crazy out of the top, but just standing here in Mobile or standing in, down at Old Palm. The number of people that have gotten way worse and sometimes hurt themselves by trying to really overdo and exaggerate and do that has been probably more than anything else I've seen. That crazy.
There's no doubt about it. And,
I'm not off base on that. Do you think?
And nobody has explained to me. It doesn't have to be right. I got a theory on everything. I'm obsessive compulsive. If people can't figure that out listening to me, spend some time with me. So I have to. One of my little mental afflictions, and I got a million of them. My critics think I have 2 million. Is that I have to make sense out of everything, even if it's just for me. It doesn't even make any sense to Tony. It has to make sense to me. And all of this stuff, and I try to compartmentalize it. But at the end of the day, what you're dealing with I think at the high level of teaching is a sham. I think it's a sham. It's a bigger sham the further up the ladder you go. Wow. It's not based on anything, and nobody could explain to me their stuff, and it would sound like something. In other words, if you said, Brian, what do you think aliens are? I got some theories. I listen to what's his name, Tucker Carlson thinks maybe that's the God and the angels, and maybe that's what that is, right? That's a pretty good theory. I got another theory, it's slightly different than that. But what do we know? We have no damn idea, right? We're just guessing. But I could make it sort of kind of make sense to you. Nobody can explain that in the laydown move to me. So it's a sham. It's based on what? First of all, not a whole lot of people historically did it the way it's being showed. So you don't have historical on your own.
I can't actually, and this is, again, I'm not critical of any of those guys because I do my deal and whatever. But I would agree with you. One of the first things I always do when things come along is I try to go has anybody kind of ever done that? That's been good. I tried it. That's stupid me. You might be smarter than me, probably are. No, but I'll try to friggin' do it. Yeah. I'll stand there and do it. I argued with Joe Mayo about 10 degrees down at the open forum. I went home. I had 2,500 balls. I couldn't even start my car. I couldn't even open the door. My hands were they turned into I look at it like I was working at a sandpaper factory. I hit so many balls with my damn cord grip, but I found out a bunch of stuff about spinning the hell out of a golf ball. If you have a good lie, start with that. You're not into the grain and English term behind number 7. But I tried to lay down move 100 different times, and I can tell you I don't see. If you look at video from 2D perspective, there is a sort of kind of plane, because it's not really one, that the club kind of gets on at the top, and almost everybody, at the bottom, yeah, and almost everybody at the top is somewhat higher than that. So it has to lower somewhere some to get to this thing. But the way it's being demonstrated, the club is actually shallower than
the eventual plane, which means you have to then, like what I call super tumble steepen it, which you would think is the last thing in the world a good player would want to do late.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it baffles me. And again, there's something to it, or it would have died already. And I think the something to it is, if you're very, very, very inside out and you're a pretty good player and you try to do it, you'll tend to cheat it on video by basically swinging further left. That's the cheat. Mm-hmm. If you can lower your arms and kind of spin the club so that you're actually, instead of, you're standing in the wall and hitting at Chicago right at 555, you're really going to swing, at Seattle. If you don't use your shoulders to come over the top, because that would be by anybody's definition.
Right.
Instead of Chicago, it's Washington State. The club will look like it's laying down, and so I think it probably helps that 1%. I think Gankus, who's the most popular of all the lay down teachers, mm-hmm. and there's a bunch of Milo Lines. These guys are successful teachers, good for them. But I think he had a bunch of people around him that were doing the opposite, and this was the fix. That's my only right.
No. I know
there's a stack and tilt teacher there. Steve Holmes is a really good teacher, but I mean, like if they have any issues, they usually swing too far to the right. So maybe it was something that just sort of developed as a fix. The problem is, would it have helped Nicklaus?
Right.
Would it help Scotty Scheffler? Mm-hmm. Would it help McIlroy? How far down the list do I have to go?
You can keep going, but yeah.
Snead. No. The answer to all of those is definitely not. It would have you couldn't have got 5 minutes into that lesson.
Right.
You go back, and Nicklaus was hitting the bad in 1980, right? In the book with the green shirt and the red pants, the full swing, and basically what Jack Grout did with him was what people would call shallowed out, but he just made it deep. Right? He got the club deeper and a little rounder. He'd gotten kind of upright. Well, instead of Jack Grout, one of those guys give them their stock lesson that he get 5 minutes in. He goes, I can't do that. I mean, he knew better than to do stuff like that. Like than a lot of these guys now. I mean, I think they get brainwashed into doing it, and it's harder to brainwash a tour player than a regular person. But sometimes I won't.
Yeah. Brian, you're the best. This was awesome. We got to do it a little more regularly. Hopefully I'll get the opportunity to come over and catch up and hang out a little with you in New Orleans. But you're always great about coming on this, and always great info, and we always have a good time. I appreciate everything.
Who that say to go beat the face?
Who dat?
Always great to be on, Tony. Talk soon.
Thank you. Hi, this is Tony Ruggiero. And look, recently, several teachers I know and several players have had some scares with skin cancer. In fact, I recently went and saw a dermatologist here in town, and I had a couple things frozen off, eyelid, my face, my earlobe, and not getting any younger. And I know it's getting to that time of the season where it's cooler, but look, being in the sun is a real deal, and I've not been very good, to be totally honest, my whole career at using it at all, because I didn't like how greasy it was, how hard it was to get off your hands, how it clogged up my pores. And then I found this sunscreen, Visor Skincare. It's clear, it goes on, it doesn't dry you out, it isn't greasy, it's like you didn't put anything on it. By far, it's the best sunscreen I've ever used. Without a doubt, is the easiest to use. And we've got a discount code for all of you. All you have to do is go to visorskincare.com, use our code word DewSweeper. visorskincare.com, code word DewSweeper.